approaches.
You're looking at this as the head of your company. If you were to go back and put on your cap as the head of the wireless bureau, the FCC, is there something underneath all of this then that would keep you from approving this plan?
I think what I would do if I was there would be to invite as many people to say, why don't you do, how many people are out there to do this plan? Or something like this, and figure it out. And if there are, 3 people show up or 10 people show up, then you can have an auction. Right? You can go out there and say, okay, all of you want to do this very similar thing, but I would do it with the mindset that technology is moving at a pace that is unheralded in the history of the world. Right? Every 18 months, new products come out, new services. There's a big noise this summer about about iPhones. There are new versions, new software versions of the iPhone coming out every few months, and that tells you the pace of innovation. So I would say let's do this fast. Let's invite the world that comes in. Let's test these ideas, and if there's lots of people who want to do something similar to this, let's quickly decide on that. Let them sort of bid against each other. I think sort of forestalling a decision ends up hurting the consumers. We're business people. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll move on to the next idea. We know lots of ideas out there to implement. But I think the consumers are hurt when there are limited options, or when there are not enough competitors out there in the marketplace. Excuse me.
You said in the Seattle Times on October 4th that the FCC sided with 7 incumbent telephone companies that said a slow decision on our license application was in the public interest.
Yes.
You stand by that?
I stand by that because it's actually in the public record. 7 of the largest companies in the world, telephone companies that already have licenses, essentially made arguments that said a free service nationwide is not helpful to us. And by the way, the FCC, you should take your time to make the decision. These are paraphrases of direct quotes that's available in the public record. We invite people to go to the FCC website. They can pull out all this information. They can also go to our website, M2ZNetworks.com, or go to the Coalition for Free Broadband Now.org and find all this information available. One of the largest carriers, the largest carrier in the world, who has a whole bunch of spectrum, basically argued this point. This is almost an exact quote. If M2Z is allowed to provide free broadband services in rural areas, we have no incentive to compete in that rural marketplace. It's an astounding statement that they've been able to get away with it. We want to draw people's attention to that. So that means people that already have a license, that already have infrastructure. This is AT&T. They have local service, local telephone service. They have the singular branded wireless service. All this are basically saying we'll only compete in the rural market if there's no other competitor available. We'll only provide service if there are no competitors out there, especially, and we particularly don't like M2Z because their pricing structure is unattractive because it would force us to lower our services. Now, I think it's an astounding statement. I don't think anybody should actually, give any credence to any of the statements that they make. And the sort of follow-up that they had to this is FCC, just hold on, make a long process, forestall making a decision. That's sort of what the regulatory filing said. At the end of the day, the FCC decided to wait and hold on and see when we're going to make this decision. Now, 6 companies, all of them small, startup type of companies, all came in and said, we think we can do this kind of a service. I think that shows that there are people who are willing to risk it to go out there and kind of create these price disruptive business models for broadband. And so, I can tell you why I think theirs is not as good as ours and whatever, but I think it shows that there is interest to take this piece of fallow spectrum that's not being used for any purpose today and use it to generate a free broadband service. That is good for consumers.
What happens to your plan now?
Well, the FCC indicated that they were going to conduct a rulemaking. So we're going to participate in the rulemaking and make the same points that we've made in the past. They had some very technical proposals that really don't work in this band and the spectrum band, and so we're going to make our case that those are not appropriate approaches. The fundamental policy question is, look, you have the private sector saying we want to build a network that provides free connectivity to everybody in the United States, 95% of the population minimum, with very fast build out. That should be the policy that drives this sort of rulemaking process. At the end of the day, the other thing we're going to argue is let's make a quick decision. At the end of the day, whether you like our plan or not, let's actually figure out how to use the spectrum and whatever the commission feels is the right way to use it. But sort of prolonging this, delaying this, waiting more time, with no sort of hard line, I think begs a question as to, where's the consumer interest in all of this?
John Muleta is the CEO of M2Z Networks. Thanks for being on the Communicators.
Thank you very much for having me.